Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. Now, you may notice that if you follow the Info Runners podcast, you're going to get a double dose of Minion Soldier today. I believe that episode releases today, where we're talking about theaters of war. So it's definitely a fun show, and you should go check that out. But I kind of wanted to look at the state of FPS in the persisting universe and talk about this. Server performance is kind of a mixed bag in Star Citizen. You can see this is part of a lot of footage that I was getting today where I was kind of testing out various servers, trying to find the minimum and the maximum servers. And unfortunately, this server is beyond the minimum. So this was a total abandoned ship situation. But what I was trying to nail down was the server performing crisply and the server performing pretty brutally, but not so brutally that I couldn't, go out and get an FPS mission done, or at least try to. And the results were pretty crazy. You may note that some people, when they're playing Star Citizen, they're like, "Oh no, the game works perfectly for me," and other people are like, "No, it performs like crap." And the performance really doesn't have. It really doesn't have a level. It's entirely dependent just on the state of the server and the state of the game that you log into. And that's a pretty terrible state of affairs. Now, here are things moving along fairly swimmingly. This is a fairly crisp and, as far as I can tell, a fairly fresh server. So we're going in here, we're using heavy armor, we got the FS9 light machine gun, and we're going to start kicking ass. And it's a fine weapon to kick ass with, let me tell you. I enjoyed it. As long as I had it. Which was about a day. And so we're about to spot our second guy here, take him down, and then boop, 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 dead. Didn't even see the guy. And luckily I have the footage so I could actually go back, and that was just a hair over half a second from first hit to dead. However, here we are on another server, and things are not performing all that crisply. And this, in this situation, works to my advantage because the NPCs are so brain dead that they never even get a shot off on me. I'm gonna clean sweep this entire bunker and never get shot at once. And I'm not even being, all that quick with my shooting. I mean, honestly, I should be holding the gun up a little bit more and looking down the sights a little bit more, but I'm not. I'm kind of being a little bit loosey-goosey in this, and arguably I should have been shot and at least wounded right back there. When I was shooting at the second guy, he just saw his buddy get gunned down, and he's just like, "Well, what's that? I don't know. Maybe that's a guy I should shoot at. Maybe it isn't. I don't know." And one of the ways that we could kind of solve this, accounting for the way that the game performs and accounting for just the surprising difference in performance, not based on how you play, but rather on how the server is performing, is we could increase time to kill significantly. And I mean, we could actually make it so that heavy armor is indeed heavy armor. I mean, when you think about it, in the future with physicalized inventory and all that stuff, like, heavy armor is going to come with a number of drawbacks. Certain ships you won't be able to pilot, or you may be able to pilot them, but you got to set your armor aside and then put it on. You're going to have a place to store that armor. When you're kind of making all these sacrifices to include heavy armor on your character, it should be worth something. You shouldn't be dying within half a second unless somebody's dropping like a size 9 or class 9 torpedo, or firing at you with, the turrets of a spaceship rather than, an FPS weapon. Now, we know that Star Citizen is filled with bugs, or if we want to be gentle and, want to keep everybody feeling positive, we don't call them bugs anymore. Maybe we call them digital eccentricities or something like that, so we don't hurt anybody's feelings. But when the game is performing the way that it is, I think that we do have to make certain allowances, and we got to pull back on certain things. And I think that time to kill is way too short, and that if a player is committing to wearing heavy armor or medium armor, that should, I mean, even if I was wearing light armor, half a second seems a little excessive. I mean, I could kind of accept it, but if I'm wearing medium armor or if I'm wearing heavy armor, that should never be the case unless, you know, yeah, like a capital ship is dropping shells on me. I think if you make certain allowances like that, you can kind of get the persistent universe, even with its bugs and even with its problems, into a place where these missions become fun again. I'm not saying that it should feel like, oh, let's play the 1980s RoboCop theme in when I walk into a bunker and I'm just cooking fools left and right and just mowing them all down. It shouldn't be that easy, but at the same time, you know, we do have to take into account server performance and some of the problems that come along with it. And maybe for a time it's going to be that easy. I mean, it would be a lot easier to swallow, you know, if I was able to pick up all these weapons off the ground and kind of stash them in my personal inventory, which I do, to kind of make up for the fact that occasionally like things are going to go out of whack and I'm going to lose a gun or two. I'm willing to accept that, you know, just to kind of to put things more on an uneven ground. You know, when we get to a point where server performance is a lot better, then we can go a little bit more hardcore with things. But when you're just dropping guns all over the place and losing them, especially when there's limited quantities and limited availabilities at certain locations, it really doesn't do anything for the game. And yeah, some people say it's not a game, it's a tech demo or it's early access and you shouldn't be calling it a game. CIG calls it a game. And I mean, we all get, you know, we get why. You know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know, live game environment. Okay. But, you know, maybe it's time to kind of pull, you know, take a step back in the, you know, the persistent universe, the live game environment, the tech demo, whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's time to take a step back and just say, you know what, players should have enough time to actually apply a heal to themselves when they're getting shot at. Yeah, in some instances, it is going to be a face roll, but that's, once again, that's down to server performance. But in some instances where the server's working really well, maybe we can get to a place where it's a decent and playable challenge, you know? It just some little tweaks here and there, maybe some adjustment to maybe armor actually being armor rather than just like the decorative outfit that you're putting on your character. I mean, at this point, I would question if it even really works, you know, because the performance is so uneven that it's hard to tell if heavy armor is actually heavy armor or if it isn't. Because, you know, we've got these wonderful numbers when we buy it. It says, oh, it reduces damage by 40%, but obviously that 40% isn't a whole heck of a lot. And who knows, at the end of it, if you make these changes, you know, whatever you want to call it, whether it's a game, whether it's a tech demo, where, you know, whether it's early access, you know, however you know, describe the persistent universe, maybe we end up with something that's actually fun to play.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.